Oh, man, you couldn't have made a more unfortunate decision. Okay.
Intersection is fire.
Never had it.
It's like 100.
Yeah, that's the real question. Is it though? Okay.
Also,
We're gonna get a shared screen going up here.
across the
Give me
street.
just a
It was
second,
fire.
ladies and gentlemen.
But I ate it so fast I wouldn't think I got to taste it.
What'd you get?
The classic Italian hot.
I was so
Sorry.
excited for you. It's not even hurting me. I'm just
I know.
disappointed for you.
I kind of am too. I really did kind of change, but we're here.
Neither.
Did you get the
I
fries?
don't want
That's
that,
a lie.
but I'm screen sharing.
They got good fries.
They do have.
And
good fries.
make sure they can still see us on Zoom.
But I did not get them this time.
Yeah, maybe I got.
Jeremiah, you gotta tell me, remind me of this full screen and then a new
They
share.
heat it up, don't they?
I think it's full screen and then a new.
Maybe I gotta go.
I know
haven't been
also
there.
done it in a different way.
Did it a different way last time. Nope, we're good. Hold on. I see it on the screen. You people out there in Zoom land, let me know if you can see a presentation right now. It says Investor Workshop. Can you see that? Are we in the right place?
I don't remember.
Don't need that. Don't need that. I don't know why this won't go away, but I'm hoping it will.
You're keeping the
We'll
count
see.
over.
Yeah, I'm the guy. We get the guy. Oh, dude,
All
you
right.
gotta get the.
I think we're good.
Big Mac.
That sounds trash.
Their hummus are so good. They literally taste like. Go open up my mailbox. I got some. Because sometimes they made hummus. Yeah, because sometimes when I go, I'll say like hot mustard and you have to pronounce your hand. Hot, spicy mustard, and they'll give me honey mustard. I'm like, not what I said. So then I just got it stirred up because I'm like.
I like honey mustard.
Their honey mustard, it's all right.
Yeah.
It's not bad.
It tastes too much like I like.
Or if it tastes too sweet.
Yeah.
I didn't want to put honey on my burger. Thank you.
Sweet.
All right. You hit the button already? We're good. Yeah.
Yep.
We're good?
We are.
All right, we're on. All right, I think we're ready to start. All right, before we start, did anybody not get one of these here little packets? Anybody not get one of these packets? We want to make sure you have one. You're ready to rock and roll before we start. Beautiful. Look at that. So ready. All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome. This is one of my absolute favorite master classes we do all year long. This is the Investor Masterclass. Okay, this is one of those things that you don't get to learn in real estate school. This is one of those things that the general public believes that we should know better than most people, and the reality is that we don't. A lot of times we as real estate professionals, we don't really understand the full capacity of what investing in real estate really looks like, or even more importantly, what it could look like for your clients and for you. So today we've got quite a bit to go through. But before we start anything, I just want to start with a general understanding of investments. Okay, so if you look on your page, you'll see right up top, you'll see a range of very, very common investments. As you look across this list of investments really quick, show of hands, does anybody have any one of these investments? Any one of these investment vehicles? Yeah, there's a savings account on there. I hope some of you guys have at least one. Okay, all right, cool. Yeah, I was gonna say, some of you guys are in trouble. You haven't got a savings account. All right, so, ladies and gentlemen, we're gonna talk about this so that you understand what do investments in general look like, and then let's compare real estate to it, because there's a lot of options that you and your clients will have when it comes to managing your money and growing it so that someday you decide not to work, you have some money sitting around available to you. All right, so let's just jump right into this. Average rates of return. So again, on your page, you got a slew of investment vehicles, and you'll notice there is a very cool relationship that exists between risk and return. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, this is the key fundamental between all investments is when you put up high amounts of risk, you should expect high amounts of money. Because if you have potential to lose money, you should also have potential to make money. That's one of the joys about our real estate career is that you have the ability to make hundreds of thousands of dollars per year, if not millions of dollars per year, every single year. But also, you could make absolutely nothing. Is that a risk? Yes or yes?
Yes.
Yes. Okay, so I want you to consider savings account has a very, very, very low rate of return, less than 1%. But the beauty of the savings account is you put your money in, and do you ever lose your money in a savings account? No, you just steal from yourself when your checking account runs low. Oh, look, nobody in here does that? Oh, this is great. I love you guys responsible people. This is so good. Okay, but yes, very low. You put money in, the money does not disappear, it does not go away, it does not dry up, it does not disappear. It just grows very, very slowly. Right? So there's very low risk. You're not going to lose the money, so there's very low return. As you keep working your way down to like a high yield savings account, risk is still pretty low, but a little bit higher rate of return. Some of you guys right now, you have a savings account, and you might want to consider a high yield savings account after looking at this, considering that the risk is effectively the same. So I highly recommend you look into these. Okay. Some of you guys might have a whole life insurance policy or cash value life insurance policy. If you ever had any of your friends that graduated high school and started working for Northwestern Mutual or Mutual of Omaha or any one of the financial firms around town, they sell these whole life cash value policies. They tend to be very low risk because you just put your own money in it. You get your own money back out after it grows over a long period of time. Pretty low rate of return, over around 2%, but again, pretty safe stuff. And again, government bonds, okay, you loan the government some of your money. They'll give it back to you 10 years later, 20 years later, 50 years later. So you get a nice little rate of return for that because in general, the government's pretty good at paying back money or borrowing it from somebody else to pay you back. Okay, so if anybody's following the federal deficit number, we believe that our government's really good at borrowing money. Okay, and then last but not least, the stock market. This is the first time we actually get out of this low risk range. Because how many of you guys know that you can put money in the stock market and it could disappear tomorrow? Poof, gone. Yeah. Okay, what happens in the stock market is you loan money effectively to companies, and based on the public perception, based on the market's perception of how healthy this company is, these companies grow in value or they shrink in value. So if you loan a company money and they go out of business, are you going to get your money back? Absolutely not. So if you put all your money in Apple and tomorrow Apple goes out of business, all that 12% that you were going to get from Apple is not going to come. So there's a little bit more risk in there. So we jump from low to medium risk. And you get a much higher, over double rate of return on even the best safe investment. So as you look across this, obviously these are investment vehicles that you can do with your money. But today we're going to be talking about a little bit about houses. And I want you to think about this for just a second. Before you answer the question that's on your page, do you think houses are a low risk investment, medium risk investment, or a high risk investment in terms of you being able to lose money? Is this a low risk, medium risk, or high risk?
Low risk.
Mason says low risk. Why low risk? Why do you think low risk?
Tangible asset in markets, at least in Omaha.
Love that. Tangible asset, stable market. They're not making more of this stuff. They're making a few new builds.
Is high, so obviously it's going to cost a price to sell.
Could be a good time for it. Mason says low. Anybody disagree with Mason? Ben disagrees. What do you got, Ben? He thinks high risk. Why high risk?
Real estate environment, look for rental, as well as depending on what you want, because one thing goes out and that could cost you your entire investment.
Yeah, Ben, you said an important words in there. Depends. Yes, we're not talking about the diapers here. Ladies and gentlemen, real estate can be a very risky investment simply because there are a lot of factors involved. I want you to consider in a real estate investment transaction, how many different people might be involved? How many people are involved in your savings account? When you put money in here, how many people? Yeah, one. It's like you put money in a machine, you don't even have to talk to a person to do this. Yes? How about bonds? Can you just buy bonds? How many people are involved in this bonds process? That's what makes these things pretty low risk. How many people are involved if you flip a house? There's you, it's a contractor, second, third, fourth, fifth contractor. There's a buyer, a seller, a couple of agents. Lender. Maybe a lender, maybe a couple of lenders. There's a whole lot of people that might be involved in this process. That's where risk starts to really climb when it comes to houses. Okay, so Ben brings up a really, really good point. There's a lot of factors that come into real estate, into these transactions. And I want you guys to be mindful of this as we go through this, because once you get real estate stable, real estate can be a phenomenal investment. So considering that real estate has a little bit of potential for risk, or it can get stabilized and it can be a great tangible asset for you for years and years to come. My question for you is, what return would you want? And there's no right answer to this, but what kind of return would you want if you did some real estate investing? if you did a flip, if you did a rental, if you did an Airbnb, what kind of rate of return? And we do this little activity to give you a little bit of context of what do safe things get as a rate of return. So you put $100 in here, you get $2 back at the end of the year. You put $100 in here, you get 12 back at the end of the year. If you put 100 in real estate, how much money would you want back at the end of the year? Knowing that you could lose it all, knowing that it could cost you some more money. How much would you want? And I want to give you just 30 seconds to think about this. And if you want to just talk it over with whoever's sitting at the table next to you and just talk about what would you want for a rate of return if you did a real estate investment. Okay, you got 30 seconds to just share with your neighbor what kind of rate of return would you want and why. And ladies and gentlemen, if you're out there in Zoom land, I would love for you to just drop it in the chat. What kind of rate of return would you like and why? What kind of rate of return?
That's what I think. Because like you said, you want bigger money.
Yes, what kind of rate of
Because, like,
return?
think about it, like if you put like $200,000.
If you're in the chat, I'm very curious.
You know what I'm saying? Maybe I buy it.
I would say.
It depends on the investment type. What about you? I'm talking about you. Whatever investments you want. Jay knows it's high. He's been in that game. The investments that you like, what kind of rate of return would you want?
If I'm buying a property.
My mom is watching them right now.
Depending on how long you hold it. Because, and it depends on who's staying. Because if they.
What kind of rate of return?
You're losing.
That's good. What kind of rate of return would you want? What kind of investments are you into? Are you a rental guy? Are you a flip person?
Yeah. I don't
All right, ladies and gentlemen,
Yeah, I'm gonna stick with it.
find a good place to stop. Just shout them out at me, a couple of them. I'm just curious, a couple people. What kind of rate of return were you looking for? 40, 50. What else?
50 to 30.
30 to 50. Yeah, there's a little bit of risk in there for sure. Who else? Anybody else? Love it. Alex Pierce says it depends on the investment type. Yeah. All right, we're gonna see what kind of appetite you have when we get into this. All right, ladies and gentlemen, when we talk about the methods of real estate investing, I want to give you just a couple of ideas of what these things could look like. Because like I think a lot of you guys found in your discussions, there's a lot of different ways to do this. So we're just going to talk about a couple that are probably very familiar to you. Flips. We take a house that's not so nice, we make it pretty nice, and then we sell it to somebody else. We keep this thing moving, we make some money real quick. You can do long-term rentals. Get a 3-bedroom house, put a family in there, and let them pay you rent every single month forever and ever and ever, amen. You can do short-term rentals. That's the Airbnb route. You can do medium-term rentals. So like 6-month contracts, 3-month contracts for people who are month to month. You can also do. It's a little more transient. Also, that falls in this short-term rental world. Airbnb, you can do Airbnb. So instead of having one client for a long time, you've got a new client potentially every day, potentially a couple of weeks, potentially several dozen over the course of a year. Okay, you can do syndication. You can get all your buddies together. You can all put your money together and you can go in and buy something really, really big that none of you guys could buy individually. Syndication, that's how that one works. If you guys have ever heard of Grant Cardone, anybody ever heard of Grant Cardone? This is one he's very, very well known for. He gets a lot of very wealthy people together and they buy big buildings that he could never buy on his own. Okay, and for putting it together, he takes a nice small fee, a couple $1 million each time. Okay, you know who else is good at this? Anybody ever read the book Rich Dad Poor Dad? Rich Dad Poor Dad? Yeah, Robert Kiyosaki, the king of this. Okay, so REITs. You can put your money in stocks that are based around real estate. So people who have big real estate portfolios, they'll sell you a piece of it as if it's a stock. It's another form of this syndication. Okay, you can do house hacking. Let's go. This is some of the intro level. So for maybe some that you want to introduce to your clients, you probably heard about this one on TikTok. Okay, house hacking. You move in, you get a couple of roommates, and they help you. They pay you rent. It helps you pay the mortgage. You pay a little less than the mortgage. Or you buy. Here's the one on TikTok. You buy a 4-unit property, you live in one and you rent out the other 3, so they help you pay the mortgage. Okay. A live-in flip, you can buy one of these houses that needs to be fixed up, live in it and fix it up while you live in it. Then when you sell it at the end of 2 years, guess what you get to do? Take all the proceeds tax-free. That's a nice little hack for you guys, especially for you guys in real estate. You don't have to pay commissions every time you sell a house. You could move every 2 years and make a whole bunch of money. Anyway, that's for somebody out there. Okay, live-in rental, you can live in a house and then after 2 years when you get done with it, you go buy a new house and you just rent that one out right to the next person. You save up enough money for your next house, you just go buy it and you just rent out the one that you were living in. You can wholesale or wholetail. Wholesale simply means you get somebody to agree to sell their house for a certain price, then you just go sell it to another buyer. That's wholesale/wholetail. Medium-term rentals, we talked about this month to month, couple months at a time. This was big in COVID season when travel nurses were going all around the country. Really, really big for them. Or you do things like subject to, where you can. We're not going to get into subject to. That one's very complicated. We'll get into that another day. All right. So these are all methods of real estate investing. We're going to touch on a lot of these, but before we do, I want to tell you just a little bit about my personal real estate investing journey. So here's where my real estate investing journey began. Right here. So this is actually me prospecting for sell by owners. Part of what I started on in real estate, I really struggled with the consistency piece. It was very hard to get up and do the prospecting every single day, even though you knew it was the thing that was going to bring you business. So one of the things that I did was I joined a group. This group was called, it wasn't called this at the time, but now it's called Listing Agent Academy. And what we would do in this group is, it was a Facebook group, and you would just go live in the Facebook group. So instead of sitting there twiddling your thumbs and pretending like you're prospecting, you have a whole bunch of people from around the country watching you while you prospect. How's that for pressure? How's that for accountability, huh? It's not bad. Okay, and you can see I'm on day 4 of my 30-day challenge, and this is something I got really, really good in the habit of doing. So this one is me prospecting for sale by owners. And I just want to tell you about the guy that really got my investment journey going, is a guy by the name of Jason. Jason was trying to sell his mom's house because mom had passed away. And he had a house, tiny little house in Lincoln. He lived in Arizona, didn't even live here. So he said, you know what, go to the house, call me when you get there and tell me what you think. So I go to the house and I give Jason all this advice. It's like, you know what, dude, you need to take some time off work. You need to come up here. You need to paint all these walls. You need to fix the countertops. You need to get this carpet up out of here. You need to clean up this house and get his listing ready. All right, call me when it's done. I'll see you later. Goodbye. I walked out of Jason's house. I never heard from Jason again. What a great day for me. At this time in my career, you can see I'm 4 days into this. So I got licensed in August of 2018. Clearly, I know next to nothing about real estate. So I have no idea that this whole world of investing even exists. My only concept for helping Jason is give him advice to get his house ready for a listing and then list his house. So leads me down a whole world of learning. I get introduced to this guy by the name of Thatch Nguyen. Thatch Nguyen, if you don't follow him on Instagram, I highly recommend you do. Uncle Thatch is one of the great real estate pioneers, especially for what I'm telling you. So Thatch was a real estate agent, and his big prospecting method was he would go door knock. He would go door to door. Hey, do you want to list your home? Hey, do you want to list your home? Hey, do you want to list your home? And what he found out is some of these people don't have the ability or the desire to actually get this home ready. My client, Jason, from this video, was the same way. He was not in any place. He didn't live here, wasn't around here, didn't have extra money to come do this, didn't have the time to come do this, and really didn't care. He couldn't care less about what it took to get this house listed on the market. What Thatch Nguyen taught me was that as a real estate agent, if you really understand this investing thing, you can walk into a listing appointment and give people all kinds of options. So now you can buy their house from them. You can help them sell it. You can help them fix it up and sell it. Or you might even go into a partnership where you guys agree to do some kind of, you help fix it up and then you guys sell it and split the proceeds at the end. Okay. But early in my career, I didn't even have this tool in my tool belt. And I want to make sure you guys have this tool before the end of the day. Okay. And let me give you the practical example of when I got to see this thing play out in real life. I want you to meet my friend. This is Calvert Sheets. No. Calvert Sheets is one of the coolest guys I ever met in my whole entire life. I met Calvert prospecting. This guy, Calvert, owns this house. And Calvert's got a heck of a story. Calvert was a former business owner. And he got himself in some trouble. Landed himself in jail. Unfortunately, Calvert made some bad decisions in the business world, landed himself in jail. Calvert got out of jail. And you know what Calvert decided to do? He decided to clean up his act and get his stuff together. He bought this beautiful house. And then Calvert decided to make some more bad decisions. So Calvert took this house and he started growing marijuana in the basement. Does anybody know, is that legal in Nebraska yet? Oh, okay, it's because you guys don't vote right, okay? Just to get it. All right, no. I'm just kidding. Calvert gets in trouble again. He starts growing marijuana in his basement. And he gets in trouble again. He gets out, he decides to get his life together, and he decides, you know what, I'm going to do it the right way this time. I'm going to go open a tanning salon. He goes and opens a tanning salon in the smallest town in the tiniest little place in Nebraska. And any of you guys know how much farmers spend on tanning every year? Exactly $0.00. Yeah, that's exactly right. So he buys this whole tanning salon and builds the whole thing out and goes absolutely dead flat broke. Makes no money. and it cost him a ton. I don't know if you've ever tried to buy a tanning bed, but they are not cheap. So Calvert's trying to get himself out of a little bit of a jam, and he needs some money. He really wants his house sold, and he has no time to list it, no time to clean it up, no time to get this house ready. I was like, well, let me come take a look at your house, and we'll see what's going on. This is the day I met Calvert. So we start walking through Calvert's house, and he starts showing me that this beautiful wallpaper, people are going to love it. It's going to sell the house so quickly. We don't need to fix this before we list it. Okay, then we keep walking around, and it's nicely staged. It's beautiful. It's ready. It is. Anybody could walk in there, and they'd be happy to buy it. There were no animals harmed in the making of this property. And then this is Calvert's bathroom that we walk into. This is actually a 3/4 shower. Anybody know what's on the bottom of that? Mold, dirt, cigarette butts, you name it. It's all in there. Okay, so that is the tile on the bottom of that is the same color as the tile on the walls. Not anymore. Okay, so that's what the bathroom. And to double down on what this bathroom actually looks like, this is what the pipes look like underneath the sink. I don't know if you've ever seen metal pipes, but they're not supposed to be green with holes in them. Okay? So, Calvert is my kind of guy. Calvert is he's a great guy, but he has the kind of house that I personally love to buy. A house that needs a lot of work, and we can come in and really add value to this very, very quickly, very, very easily. Anything you do in this house will make it better. Yes? We agree on this? Okay? So Calvert is the perfect description of when Calvert and I sat down for the listing appointment. I walked him through it. I showed him a couple of houses that were ready and on the market and what they could sell for. I said, Calvert, if you're willing to get your house in the listing shape, we can sell it for this, or I can buy this one from you, and here's how much I'm able to buy it for you based on how much work needs to be done in this house. You can pick either one, ready for listing, or take some cash and go on your way. Either way is fine with me. What do you want to do? And I want to empower every single one of you guys to be able to walk into every listing appointment you go to and create solutions for people who might not be ready to hit the market, who might need an investor. So as much as investors probably get a bad rap in today's society because they buy houses for much less than what they're worth, there is a group of clientele who absolutely needs people who are willing to buy stuff like this. Because on the MLS, people are going to walk in and they're going to say all kinds of awful things about this guy's house. Then he's going to have to go see those people in the grocery store and try not to punch them in the face when he heard them talking bad about his house on the Ring camera. Okay, so ladies and gentlemen, let's talk today about my goals for this training for you. My goals for you are for you to learn about the worthwhile ways to become a real estate investor. Learn about some of these methods that we just talked about: flips, rentals, short-term rentals, wholesaling, all those things. I want you to learn some guidelines so you understand what a good deal is, so that you understand when you offer a client some cash, or when your investor clients ask how much should they offer, you can really give them a good answer of what a good deal is. Or when you bring them a deal and say, this is a good deal, you actually know for a fact it's a good deal. Okay, I want you to understand how to rehab a home, because there's a lot of us in here where we walk around with our clients and we talk about all the upgrades they're going to do, and they're going to change these floors and change this carpet and change all this stuff, and we don't even know how much that stuff costs. I'm going to give you some tools that we've never given out for that today. Okay, we're going to talk about how to estimate costs for repairs and make cost-effective decisions. And my goal before you guys get out here is that you create a plan for some of your next investments. That you keep this in mind, because you're already in the business. You guys are going to be the ones who see Calvert's house before it hits the MLS. And the beauty about you seeing Calvert's house before it hits the MLS is, you know what the saying we always have about listings, you can never underprice a listing. So if you go put an investment property on the market for next to no money, all the investors come and that price gets shot up through the moon. Okay, so you're going to get a chance to see some of these investments before they even hit the market, and you might be able to get yourself or some of your clients really, really good opportunity. All right. And then last but not least, we're going to make sure you guys have some great resources as you leave here. If investing is something you want to continue to pour some of your efforts and your energy and your learning into, we're going to make sure you can do that. All right. So let's talk about the rules for buying great deals. Okay, the first rule that I want to introduce you to is called the 70% rule. Okay, the 70% rule simply says that when you get an investment property, who remembers our rate of return? Can you shout out some of your rate of returns for me that you wanted to get if you did real estate? 40, 50. There was a 20. Somebody said 20. I don't remember.
15 to 30.
15 to 30. Yeah, absolutely. So the 70% rule says that after I buy the house and fix it up, I want 30%. That's why it's a 70% rule. 30% of profit left over. So that means 70% of what this house is worth is how much I have to purchase it and fix it up. That's why it's called the 70% rule. 70% of the value, once it's all fixed up, should be enough to purchase and fix it up. So here's how you do it. Step one, on your paper, you find what we call the ARV. ARV is the after repair value. Any guesses how you find the ARV? Comps. Yeah, exactly. It's exactly what we do. You do comps, you do the photo game. If I make the house nicer than this one, it'll be this price. If I make it a little bit less than this one, it'll be this price. Great. Okay, you find the ARV. What is it going to be after you get it all fixed up? After you get it all fixed up is the key. You multiply the ARV by 0.7. Right off the bat. Multiply it by 0.7, 70%. Because now this is your all-in price. This is all the money you're going to put in this, all in. Really, really key that you lump in here. Purchase price, repair costs, and the one that everybody forgets, holding costs. Okay, average flip takes about 90 days. If you have to hold a house for 90 days, what things do you have to pay for over 90 days?
3 months mortgage.
Taxes,
Mortgage.
a mortgage maybe, insurance, utilities, absolutely. This could be a couple thousand, tens of thousands of dollars that don't get accounted for if you don't think about it right here, okay? So 70%, that's your all-in price. Okay, you're gonna subtract the estimated repair costs. And I want you to just note on your paper, and holding costs, if you possibly can. If you can't, that's fine, you can come out of your profits to do that. Subtract your estimated repair costs and holding costs. And what you'll have left over is a number that tends to be your maximum purchase price. Okay, and again, why do we do the 70% rule? Because 30% margin is a great number for houses because it gives you a 10% margin for error. So even if something goes wrong or you get into this house, you fix everything up and you find out the sewer's jacked up, you've got a whole bunch of money sitting over here just in case we find something that we weren't expecting, that we didn't plan on, that we didn't know was going to happen. One of your contractors puts a hole in a wall and you got to redo another wall. We have this 10% margin in there for mistakes. Okay, and then you have a 20% equity stake. So even if you go to 80%, all in, all money in, 80%, you have a 20% equity so you can obtain financing. Okay, the beauty of the 70% rule is it will allow you to do investing even if you have $0 in your bank account. What happens is if you go to a bank and you try to get a loan on investment property, do you know how much money they make you put down? 20%. But if your 20% is already built in because you bought this at a really, really good price, banks will give you the financing to buy a house and fix it. Now, not all banks will do this, but there are banks and there are lenders that will do this for you if you buy things at the 70% rule or if your clients do. So this gives you a lot of freedom and flexibility to do not just flips, but also to do long-term rentals if you decide you want to keep this and finance it long-term. To do short-term rentals if you want to, again, finance it long-term. And it gives you a lot of wiggle room if you decide to sell it. Anybody off the top of your head, what's 20% of like a $300,000 house? Average price point. $60,000. Who's down to get a $60,000 check today? Yeah, it wouldn't hurt. Yeah, it wouldn't be the worst thing ever. Okay, let me give you one more really good rule. We call this the 1% rule. And this is just a quick glance, back of napkin math kind of rule that just says if you can collect rent on this property that is equal to 1% or more of the purchase price, it's generally a good deal. And when I say a good deal, that means even if you finance it, you will probably cash flow additional money at the end of every single month. After you pay off the mortgage and pay off all the expenses, you will have additional money left over every single month as cash flow for your rental, even while you're waiting for it to appreciate. Okay, the beauty of these two rules, these are two really, really simple, easy rules for you to know if you're looking at a good deal for a rental or for a flip or for an investment that your client's thinking about. Notice, neither one of these rules has anything to do with the asking price. So regardless of what the seller's asking for the property or what they want for the property, it has absolutely nothing to do that. Your ability to spot a good deal is all in your willingness to stick to these rules. So even if the house is listed at 200, you know you can only buy it for 70% minus repairs. So ladies and gentlemen, the question no longer is when you see something on the MLS or you get something that comes across your email, or you see it on Facebook, the question is not, is this a good deal? The question is, at what price is this a good deal? Every single house that's on the market is a great deal at a certain price. You've just got to be willing to do this little work to find out what the price is that makes this a good deal. Does this make sense? Any questions around two simple rules? There are a lot of other rules that people will use and people will try to incorporate, but these are two very, very simple ones that will make it rock solid, ironclad, no questions asked. Your clients will buy these if you bring these to them. And if they won't, bring them to me because I will. Questions around this? Simple as? Good. All right. Ladies and gentlemen, so then what, as an agent, what do you need to master? What do you need to learn? What do you need to know how to do? You need to be able to do these four things. You need to be able to run great comps. You need to be able to know that that after repair value is accurate, because this is where people get in trouble, where that risk goes up. If you get the after repair value wrong, you think this house is going to be worth $400,000, but it's only worth $350,000. You just lost $50,000. Yikes. That's scary news. Okay, so you want to make sure your comps are really, really good. You're really, really good at getting these ARVs correct. Second, you want to get really, really good at estimating repair costs. Because if you think it's going to cost you $20,000 to fix up this house and it costs you $50,000, you just lost $30,000. That's risky. That doesn't happen in your savings account. Okay, you got to be really, really good at negotiation, because remember, everything is a good deal at a certain price. You got to be able to negotiate these prices. And more importantly, you've got to become a master, a savant at finding good deals, finding people like Calvert who need somebody who will buy this at a good deal, at finding people like Jason who need to sell this house and have no desire to go through the traditional listing process. Because most houses are sold on the MLS, but there are at least 10% of the 7,000 sales that happen in Omaha every year that are not. For anybody doing the math, that's like 700 deals out there. Go ahead.
I don't know if you covered this, but Jay asks, how do you get the bank to loan off the ARV value without the appraisal?
Oh, I love it. I love it. I love it. This is a great question. We're going to save it for the end because we're going to get into this a little bit later. So great question. Please remind me when we get to the end that we got to talk about how do we get banks to do this. Okay. So what do investors have to master? And my goal is for you to also be an investor. You need to master these four things that agents have to do. You got to know what ARVs are, run great comps. You got to estimate repair costs accurately. You got to be able to negotiate. You got to be able to find good deals. And in addition to that, since this is your project now, you bought this thing, you got to be able to plan this project. Because this is where amateur investors really get in trouble, is in this project planning and execution piece. So you've got to be able to accurately determine the scope, the schedule, and the budget. The scope is what tasks need to be done here: the floors, the paint, the sinks, the countertops, the bathrooms, the landscaping outside. You got to be able to accurately walk around a house and determine all those things. Then you've got to be able to schedule those things. What happens first? Should we do the paint first or the flooring first? If you do the flooring first, now the paint's going to cost you extra because they have to cover up all this nice, beautiful flooring that you just finished. But maybe if you do the paint first and you just rip out that old flooring, painters can be as messy as they want, and their life just got much easier. Okay, schedule. You got to become a master of that piece too. You got to master the budget. You got to make sure that if you think it's going to cost you $30,000, it actually costs you $30,000. You got to master that. Okay, then you got to master financing. Shout out to Jay's question. We're going to get to that. And then you got to do the really hard thing, which is this people part, managing contractors. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, management is one of the hardest jobs in the absolute world that there is. That's why there's an entire section on it inside of every single Barnes and Noble. Management is one of the things that we underestimate so much, because if your contractor shows up late or it takes them a little long to finish, and now your second contractor can't start, your plumber can't start because your other guy hasn't finished putting the sinks on. This might cost you an extra couple $1,000s. Or if you have a loan out trying to fix up this house, and now it takes you 6 months to complete it as opposed to 2 months, you just paid a whole bunch of extra mortgage payments and interest, didn't you? Your holding costs that you thought were only going to be 2 months just turned into 8 months, because now you got to wait for it to sell and go into escrow. Damn, that just got expensive. I'm not telling you from firsthand experience. Oh, wait. Yes, that was a tragedy. All right. So, ladies and gentlemen, let's talk about creating a scope of work. If you flip over your page, what you'll see here on page 2 is a little cheat sheet. It's a little cheat sheet, and I want you to keep this forever because these are some of the common things that you walk around your house and you probably hear your clients say. I want to replace the carpet. I want to paint the walls. I want to get a new water heater. What if I have to get a new furnace? How much is our roof going to cost? All of these things. And this is just a little cheat sheet. This is not all encompassing, but these are just some average prices that'll give you a good place to start. If you know you're in a house that's bigger than the average house on the market, you might want to plan on this number being a little higher. If you're in one of the smallest houses in all of Omaha, you can plan on probably being a little bit below budget on some of these things. But these are just some averages and some things for you to shoot for. Okay. This should help you, again, as you're walking around with your traditional clients and as you're planning to prepare for some of these investments. So what does it look like to create a scope of work? This is where I talk about you guys got to really understand the scheduling piece if you're going to be fixing up houses in any capacity or advising your clients to. Okay, phase of a rehab, they go in order, and it's monumentally important that you go in order because each of these things will make the things that come after it easier. It will make things happen easier, and you'll see exactly what I mean. So first thing you do is you do demolition clean out. You clean all this stuff out of the house. You take out everything, all the old piping, old electrical, old countertops, old flooring, everything that you don't want in that house, it has to go first. Before you start putting new stuff on, get rid of all the old stuff. Get it out of here. There's one more new one. Great, done. Thank you, Jay. Okay, after you get the demolition and clean out, because you're going to find all kinds of things that you didn't expect to find that you need to get rid of that are in the way that are going to make it harder for your guys to work and get things done. Then we're going to start on the outside. This is the same thing in new construction. We always start with the shell first. We're going to get this exterior taken care of, just in case of inclement weather, just in case anything big comes up that you need. You have that part already taken care of. You got curb appeal done. Okay? Exterior and foundation first, because these are things that will destroy your sale. It's first impressions, and you can't miss it. Okay, the next thing you're going to do is you're going to start with mechanical. And you're going to do this before you do anything else because you've just done demolition. You've just taken down some walls or pulled up some flooring or ripped out some cabinets. So right now, it's easiest for your plumbers to get to the pipes. It's easiest for your electricians to get to the things that they need, to punch holes in walls if you're going to add some lights or add some outlets. It's easy for them to do this right now because everything's already torn apart. So you want to get those people in there because these are all the things that are behind the walls, the HVAC people, all of those things. Before we start putting Humpty Dumpty back together again, let's get all the stuff that's behind the walls taken care of first. Then, once we get everything done behind the walls, then you're going to do your drywall. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, this is something that we as real estate agents don't consciously think of. We think of paint because a lot of the houses we go into are already move-in ready. But drywall is one of the more expensive trades because it is truly a skilled trade. It is one of the more expensive things, and drywall is one of those things that if you don't plan on it, it will delay your project because drywall can take a few days. Drywall, you might have to put it up and put a coat of mud on it and then wait for it to dry. And then you don't get to come back 10 minutes later. You have to come back tomorrow because you need it to dry, and then you got to sand it. And then you might have to do some more mud, and then you have to do what? Wait for it to dry again. And you might have to come back and sand it again and do something else. If you're really bad at it, hopefully by 2 times you're done. Jay's laughing somewhere because I know he's seen some people have to do this a couple dozen, 3 times. Okay, but drywall is one of those things that can hold your project up a few days. And if you have people that are really bad and have to come back and do this a couple of times over, this can really get expensive quickly because drywall materials ain't cheap. Okay, then you're going to do paint. Once you got all the drywall done, you've got everything cleaned up. You've got those ceilings scraped nice and flat and beautiful, pretty looking. You've got all those walls put back up, all the holes that your electrician put in for all the new lights. You've got nice, neat trim put around those. Now you can paint everything. Ceilings, walls, trim, all of it. And notice we haven't done flooring yet. So painters, you be as messy as you want. It's the reason why we do these things in order. So painters can be a little bit messy and paint drips on the floor. Nobody cares. Because guess what we're about to do is go put a flooring right on top of that joker. Okay? Or you're going to rip out that old carpet and just take all the paint splatters with you. Okay, once you got that paint working, this is when you're going to get the chance to do some trim work. So you're going to get some trim in there. You're going to get floors. You're going to trim doors, windows, cabinets. All of those things start to get put into your house. we'll get to this here in just a second. But this is where you get all those little pieces that, again, we don't consciously think about you having to go do, but you have to do this in every single house. Okay, and then last but not least, where you hit your surfaces, this is where we do the flooring. Flooring goes in last. Now that everybody's done, everybody's made all the messes that they could make, everybody's put holes in everything and left dust everywhere. Get all that stuff out of there, and we just put the flooring right down over top of it. It's great. Or up against the trim, and then you finish the trim off. Okay, countertops as well. Countertops, then you're putting on your ceramic tile backsplash, all that jazz. Okay, and then last but not least, this is what we call hardware and finished mechanicals. So this is when you put on your nice, beautiful black cabinet pulls or your modern pulls, new door knobs, finished mechanicals. Your electrician comes and installs the ceiling fans, puts on a nice brand new outlets so that you don't have yellow outlets in your nicely, beautifully painted house. So notice mechanicals, they come twice. Plumber comes back after you put the flooring on and puts the toilet down. Electrician comes back and puts all the lights on, puts all the switches up, all that kind of jazz. Okay. And again, by going in order, you really, really save yourself a lot of the trouble of having to go back and redo things or calling people back to your house 2 and 3 times, because every time a plumber comes to your house, it costs you $250. I don't know if anybody's had to call a plumber recently, but they are expensive. If anybody also, if you know anybody who's young and just trying to figure out what to do with their life, please tell them to go into like plumbing and electric. Plumbers, I have a master plumber, really good guy, but he's making $400 an hour fixing people's toilets. Yeah, it's pretty good work, right? Okay, so ladies and gentlemen, the key to creating a good scope of work is when you walk around the house with your clients, your investor clients, or for your own personal investments, all you're gonna do is make a big to-do list. All the things that you're walking around when you see that you want to do. The kitchens, the countertops, the floors, the paint, the new doors, the drywall, the taking out a wall, all the things. You just make a long list. Nice long laundry list. And then you sort the list like this. You sort them into these nice, neat little categories, and it makes it really, really easy for you. And then you just say, call this person first, schedule this person after. How many days is it going to take you? Schedule this person after. How many days is it going to take you? Schedule this person after. And you'll find that some people are capable of doing a lot of these things. So the same person who does your exterior might be doing drywall and paint. They might be doing your trim work also, right? Some of these guys might be very skilled laborers and be able to do lots of these different trades, and they might be able to do a lot of these, okay? Highly recommend you hire professionals for mechanicals, because this is where people lose a lot of money. Okay, last but not least, the most cost-effective thing that you could ever do is you buy your own materials, and then you just pay people for their time and energy. Okay, your painters will never tell you this, but if paint costs $100 at Sherwin-Williams, do you know how much they charge you for the paint? $200. Yeah, they charge you like 140 probably. Maybe not 200. It might be a little steep, but they'll charge you 140. They'll do a markup on very normal stuff that. Make sure you do that, because the budgets are super duper duper important. All right. I don't know why this is spazzing out. Oh, he had an emphasis on each one of these. It's nice. I don't know if you guys know this. Jack Harvey, the king of design, makes all of my PowerPoints because he's so much better at it. So if you see him, make sure you thank him for me on my behalf. You could do a whole week on this topic. Expect 30% of charge. Yeah, absolutely. Shout out to Jay Bigford. Full cosign in the chat. All right, ladies and gentlemen, estimating costs, because budgets matter so much. This is what will help lower your risk. Understanding these things and getting really, really good at them, it's going to help lower your risk. The golden rule in investing is the budget makes all the decisions. Okay? Let me tell you who does not make decisions. Social media. Instagram, HGTV. I think that's pretty. The golden rule, the budget makes all the decisions. So if you are out of money, do you get to now decide to upgrade the countertops, even though that was not in the plan? Absolutely not. But it would make it look so much better, Mark. The budget makes all the decisions. Okay, this is where people get in trouble again. And this is where even the most beautiful renovated houses, you think it's amazing. The person who owns that house is probably, it probably cost them $100,000 to do that. Okay, if you want to know, there's some really good horror stories from, Eric told a really good horror story from early in his career where they did a beautiful, immaculate, incredible flip. And by the time they got done, it cost them $75,000 out of their own pockets. Yeah, not a good day to be an investor. How's that for rate of return? Negative $75,000. Not a percentage you want to add up. Okay. Now, best practice, obviously, you guys have some a little cheat sheet for estimating repair costs. But the absolute best thing that you can do is you make that wish list of things you want to do, the to-do list. You make that scope of work and you just hand it to a contractor and say, if you did this labor, how much would it cost? And let the contractor tell you how much it's going to cost, because you'll get a budget very, very clearly right there. Okay, that's the absolute best way to do it, so that you don't expect one thing and then get something else, because between one contractor to another, these prices can vary a lot. Go ahead.
If you're just starting it, don't tell the contractor your budget right away.
Right.
So great. Hello. Out of curiosity, why do you say that?
Don't want to get scalped.
Don't want to get scalped.
Not that individual.
For people who don't know what scalped means, can you explain it to me like I'm 3 years old?
Initially started in the Indian village.
That's why. Okay, all right. I'll explain it like you're 3 years old. Okay. So what Ben's talking about is, if you walk in and you say, I've got $30,000 to do this job, can you please do it? The contractor looks at this thing, he's like, honestly, this is probably only going to cost you 12. But you know what? 30 is probably a good price. Why don't we do 30? Okay, this is why you don't lead with the budget. You lead with the to-do list. And then you say, you tell me what you think. Okay, and a lot of times, and for the love of God, make sure you research your contractors. Yes, absolutely. Okay, you want to make sure you're doing this because, and the way that you do this also is you can give this to 2 or 3 contractors and get a couple of bids. This is what we call bidding a job. And you're certainly welcome to do this. Okay, it will help you find out who's real, who's not, especially as you're starting this out. Okay, common labor estimate. Again, this is something that we were able to do in 2023. We have workers that are doing for this. Some people who are more skilled are going to cost you more. Some people are willing to do it for less. And just know, when it comes to the world of contractors, the saying that you get what you pay for is absolutely true. In every facet, in the quality, in the speed, in the communication, in the if they're going to show the hell up, like it. Yes. Okay. So if you hire the cheap guy, you're going to get the cheap thing. And what does the old adage say? They said you can have it good, you can have it fast, or you can have it cheap. And you can pick 2. You can only pick 2: good, fast, or cheap. You only get to pick 2. So if you want it good and fast, it ain't gonna be cheap. If you want it cheap and fast, it ain't gonna be good. If you want it cheap and you want it good, it's gonna take a long time. You got to find that really old guy who's at Menards with the beat up truck, and he'll do it. It will take him 2 years to finish the job, but he will do a really good job for you, and he will care about every step of it. Okay.
Give them all the money up front.
And make sure you give them all the, please don't give them all the money up front, because they will disappear to sunny Acapulco with all your money. All right. Ladies and gentlemen, as we're getting close to the end of this, I want you to consider what helps make these decisions. Okay, because when we're talking about the traditional real estate sale, we know that life circumstances make people do this. Life circumstances are what cause people to buy a house, list a house, is who's born, who died, who got married, all of those things. But when it comes to investments, this is very different. This is dollars and cents. This is money. This is math. We're only doing it if it absolutely makes sense. So, ladies and gentlemen, this is one of the keys for you as a real estate professional to be able to help walk through this conversation with your clients and to help them make decisions, because you might be bringing them good deals and they get cold feet. They don't quite want to get over the hurdle. This is going to help add so much concreteness to their decision that your ability to sell investment properties will go through the roof. The simple phrase I want you to remember when it comes to real estate investments is have a purpose for every property you purchase. Have a purpose for every property you purchase. That means if you are thinking about getting into real estate investing, you saw there's 15 different ways you can invest in real estate. But what's the purpose? Do you need cash to fund your kids' college? Do you need a whole bunch of cash because you want to buy a new house or a new car? If you need cash for a big purchase, maybe your purpose is only under 2 years away. If you need money fast, you might be very clear, I need a flip and I need to do this amount of money. Once I complete this flip, I'll have enough to go get that car. What this will do is it will help you get really, really clear on, should I buy this one? Even though it's a good deal, it doesn't get me the money for my purpose. I shouldn't do that one. So have a purpose for every property you purchase. Your purpose could be that you want a building for every bill. So right now you might have 15 bills you pay in your life. You pay your rent, you pay daycare, you pay groceries, you pay utilities, you pay a car note. And you might want a building for every bill. So I want a building that cash flows me enough money to pay my rent every month for me. I want a building or a house that after I pay off all the mortgage and all the rents and all the utilities, it gives me enough to pay my car note every single month. Maybe you have a building for every bill that you purchase. It will help you cancel out your payments. And if you have enough buildings, immediately you're living for free in life. Or ladies and gentlemen, is your purpose just to get to retirement? I don't need any of this money today, so I don't even care if it cash flows me money. I just want to build this up so that later in my career, I can have a nest egg to sell. There's a famous story that comes out of KW, and what this agent did was they decided that every single year in real estate, what they're going to do is they're going to buy a new house. They're going to buy not a new house, they're going to buy a house, and they're just going to rent it out to somebody. They don't care about the money because they're going to keep working, they're going to keep earning commissions, they're going to keep selling a house. But what happens is the first year you buy a house, the second year you buy a house, the third year you buy a house, the fourth year you buy a house, all the way through your career. And what happens is 25 years later, after you're done selling real estate, the first house is paid off, and then you sell the first house. And now you have $200,000, $300,000, $400,000 to live off of because you just sold that first house that had no mortgage on it because it's now all paid off. And then next year, you sell the next house. And for the rest of your life, you have a $200,000, $300,000, $400,000 house that is now what you're going to live on for the year. A really cool way to think about the idea of using long-term investing to create a nest egg, to say that I'll buy one house every year, and at the end of my career, I'll just sell them one at a time. And I'll live off that money for the year and not have to work, not have to lift a finger, not have to greet people at Walmart. Okay, so in order to create your property plan, you first need a purpose for every property you purchase. Then you need to evaluate how much money do you have. And Jay, this is where we're going to get to your question. Because depending on how much money you have the ability to, or it will tell you exactly who you need to approach for the financing. So if you have $0 and 0 cents and you want to begin investing, you certainly can. You are going to be looking for hard money lenders or private money. Hard money lenders, what these people are these are the people who will lend you the money to buy the house and fix it up. But what they'll do is they'll charge you above average market rates. So right now, anybody know the interest rate? Interest rates on a normal mortgage? Anybody sell a house in 2023? 6.5%, 7%. Okay, 7%. If you go get a hard money loan for that same house, it might cost you 12 or 18%. Significantly higher. But they don't require any down payments. And they'll give you the money not just to purchase the house, but also to fix it up. These are really, really good if you're going to do a flip or if you're going to do a long-term rental. Because what will happen is they'll loan you the money. They'll loan you your 70%. You'll fix up the house. You'll make everything nice. And at the end of it, you can sell it. You get all the money back. And 18% isn't that bad if you only do it for 3 months. Or at the end of, after you have it all fixed up, it takes you 30 days to fix it up. Now you have a property that's all fixed up and worth much more. So to answer Jay Bickford's question, how do you get a bank to do this before the appraisal? You get the hard money first. You fix it up. And then you refinance it through a bank. Then you'll get your appraisal and all that stuff will happen. You can do what we call a cash out refinance. They'll just get you a traditional mortgage at 7%. And then you pay off your hard money loan. And now you're working at 6% with no money in the deal. This is what we call BRRRR investing. If you've ever heard of the BRRRR strategy, buy, rehab, rent, refinance, repeat. Okay. So hard money, private money, that's how that one works. Now, there are some banks that will do this. And this is the hack that I'll tell you because we discovered this year and it's awesome. Okay. If you have a property that you can get this 70% rule on, I just want to be clear about this. 70% rule is not easy to find. These are not easy deals to find. You have to find them. They are not going to be on the MLS. I'm just going to tell you right now. They're not going to be there. Okay. You find one of these deals. You must find a bank and you have to go set an appointment and meet with the banker before you ever find this deal. Okay, because you want to have your financing ready, you have your pre-approval in hand when it happens. What the bank will do is you negotiate a down payment amount somewhere in this range, 3 to 5%, because they know that there's another 20% of equity in here. You negotiate some sort of low down payment. We were able to negotiate a 3% down payment on anything that we buy that fits the 70% rule. Okay. So what they'll do is they'll let us buy the property for 3% down of the actual purchase price. So Calvert's house, it would have been like $140,000 house. So it would have been, we put $5,000 down roughly. Okay. And then what the bank will do is once you buy it with this very low down payment and a very low purchase price, they will issue you a line of credit to fix up the rest of the things in the house. They will issue you a line of credit immediately for the rest of the line up to 80% of the ARV. And they will do this without an appraisal because we were able to demonstrate what kind of properties we've done and that we were able to get these numbers successfully on several other properties. Okay, so the way you get this, Jay Bigford, to answer your question, and I only am explaining all that because Jay asked, you set up a meeting with the banker ahead of time, you bring some proof of projects that you've done, and then you come in with the exact plan of what you want. I want a small down payment. I want you to issue me a line of credit afterwards, and we will house the entire loan here at this bank.
So
Okay.
what if you haven't done project?
If you haven't done projects, you walk in and you explain the hell out of the understanding on how to do this. And if the bank turns you down, go to the next bank. Because the reality is there's so many banks, and the best banks for this are small town banks. I'm just going to give you the hack here. So if you go to First National up the street on Dodge Street, they're going to tell you to kick rocks. If you go to Security National right over here on Center, they're going to tell you to shut it. But if you take off to Fremont, Arlington, somewhere that says First State Bank, and there's a really old lady named Nancy working at the desk, like Nancy, you got a shot. You got a shot. We were able to find one in Sioux City, not Sioux City, South Sioux City. Yeah, really, really small towns. Great banks for this because they're just looking for money to spend out. So, question?
No.
Question. Great. I thought I saw a hand up. My bad. That's on me. All right. So those are the non-traditional financing. That's if you have low down payments. Okay. If you have your traditional 3 to 5%, you can do an owner-occupied loan, and you could take up one of those other strategies we talked about, a live and flip. Maybe you live in it for 2 years, fix it up, sell at the end of 2 years. You know who's the master of the live and flip? Jack Harvey. Jack Harvey is the master of the live and flip. He loves these things because he loves to live in construction. I can't relate. I'm not about that. I'm a little too bougie for that. Not into that.
And you would do the live and flip with the same money that you get as if you were flipping it? To do the repairs?
No. Live and flip is one, you're gonna buy this house as if you're gonna live in it, you're gonna move in, you're gonna put your stuff down, and you're gonna fix it up as you go over time. So what's gonna happen is one weekend, you might fix the kitchen.
But you still
One weekend, you might paint.
buy it at the 7% minus.
You try to do that as best you can. The beauty of the live and flip is these are owner occupied homes. So this could be just one that's even a little bit higher in the, away from the 70% rule. It's okay because you're just living. Like it's not a huge deal. It's not a big expense for you because you're, like I said, you're physically living. So that's one of the reasons why that strategy works really, really well. We'll talk about that in a second. Okay. And then if you've got more than 20%, or you're like Harley's clients back there, and you got a whole bunch of money sitting around, you have more than 20% all the way up to full price. You can do bank commercial financing, or you just pay all cash. Okay, you'll just go right to the bank and say, hey, I got 20% to put down on this investment property and stuff. Great, thanks for your money. Goodbye. Okay, and you just go and get those all day long. Okay, on the bottom of your sheet, you'll see here. These things range from very risky to not that risky. And for all the reasons that we just mentioned, when you do things like hard money, you have a lot of additional risk like time. The longer it takes, the more expensive this is because these are 18 to 12% loans. Okay, you have a whole bunch of people that you've got to work with inside of these things because you got to meet these timelines, and all your contractors have to meet these timelines. If you pay cash, you're not getting bled dry with interest. You can take your time if contractors take a little while. It's not a big deal. Okay, that's why it's a little bit less risky to put a lot of cash down on a property. This is why Dave Ramsey recommends that you save up all the money in cash and then start investing, right? The question you have to ask is, where's your risk tolerance? how confident are you in this information that you would borrow 100% of a $200,000 investment, $300,000 investment, knowing you have to pay it back. If you're very risk averse or you don't like taking risks, you might want to lean towards the left side of your chart, or you might want to lean towards the right side of your chart. Excuse me, I don't know left from right. Right side of your chart and try to save up more cash. The more cash you have and the more knowledge you have, the less risk you will have in these investments. So that's why when Mason said that real estate is a low risk investment, he's not wrong. But it's only a low risk investment if you know what the heck is going on. Okay, so your knowledge is monumentally important, and your ability to have additional funds just in case is super duper important. So that's why you got to understand the risk reward ratio. Okay, so ladies and gentlemen, as we're closing up today, what I really want you to consider is, if you were to do an investment deal in the next 12 months, what strategy would you take? What kind of financing would you consider? And does this fit your risk tolerance? Because these are what's going to inform your decision or your client's decision. What would be the purpose? Would you get all the cash so that you could do something today? Getting all the cash today comes with some tax implications. We didn't get into taxes today. We'll get into that actually next month when we do agent financials. But what would be your purpose? What would be the purpose for the property that you purchase? You want a lot of cash to do something today? Do you have a down payment for a house you're trying to get to? Do you have a car you're trying to get to? A college fund that needs to be started? A college tuition that needs to be paid for? Honestly, Joe might have to flip a house just to pay for dance, because I know that ain't cheap. Go off.
Preach.
Okay, would you begin to get a building for every bill? Would you begin trying to slowly, one building at a time, canceling out the expenses that are in your life? Or would you just get a vacation building? You just let the excess money from that thing save up so that you can take a vacation every year lavishly and not care about how much you spend on it. Is it a vacation building? Is it a petty cash building? Is it a mortgage building, cell phone bill building? And then what's your risk tolerance? Are you willing to put it all on the line? Go out and buy that flip today? Do you need to start saving up so that that flip's not quite so scary? Everything's a little more traditional. Everything's a little more on the up and up. There's not so many moving parts. Because if your risk tolerance is low, maybe the move right now is stack up cash so that I'm ready for that. If your risk tolerance is high and you're willing to move on this because you understand this stuff, or you're around people who understand this stuff, it might be time to talk to a hard money lender and get your pre-approval ready so that you can find a deal today. And especially for those of you guys, if you're out there prospecting right now, you're going to run into people like I ran into, like Jason. At some point, you're going to run into it. It's inevitable. Harley mentioned in the group chat that she put a deal under contract. We put a deal together. It was not a seller of mine. This was a guy that I ran into at the bowling alley. His dad passed away. Him and his mom been holding on to this house for over a year because they didn't know what to do with all the stuff inside. And emotionally, they just weren't quite ready to let it go. And financially, this thing caught up to them. They have a mortgage to pay for. They got a new roof, new siding, all kinds of new stuff in the house they had to pay for. And it was time. They had to make a decision. And they didn't have time to clean this house up and put it on the market, get it ready. Because even though it's a nice house from the outside, it's not ready for a listing on the inside. And luckily, it just kind of worked out that these things, or that we happen to have a client forum here inside of Meraki. But these things are going to happen in your life. You're going to run into these people at the bar, at the gym. These people might be in your family. These people might live up the street from you. And you just want to be empowered with the knowledge that can help them. And the knowledge that when you bring these things to somebody who really wants them, to that investor that really wants them, to one of your peers in the room that might really want one of these investments, you want to make sure with all confidence you're bringing these people something that's not going to cost them $50,000, even though you said it was a good deal. All right. So ladies and gentlemen, as we wrap up, Are there any questions around this topic of investing? Because as we leave, I want to give you guys a couple of resources, and I'm gonna give you a couple of things that I wanted to make a slide for, but I totally forgot. So I'm just giving to you to write down. Here's a couple of really, really, really good books that I just want to recommend to you. If you like the idea of potentially getting your feet wet in the world of investing, and you might think about house hacking or live and flip, or maybe even like a wholesaling kind of relationship where you can begin real estate investing, finding good deals, but you don't necessarily want to go out and take hard money out or do all those kinds of things. I really recommend you to read this book. Retire Early with Real Estate. It's by a guy by the name of Chad Carson. He has a podcast also, if you're a podcaster. It's just called Coach Carson. And he's a guy out of Cincinnati. And him and his wife, what they did was they bought a house, fixed it up, sold it. Made like $150,000 on the first house. Bought a house, fixed it up, sold it. Made another 100 on that one. Bought a third house, fixed it up, sold it, made another 150 on that one. And by the time they got to their fourth house, they were completely mortgage free. And this is the product. This is the product of 7 years instead of, or I'm sorry, 8 years instead of what the mortgage company tells us we have to do, which is 30. So imagine 7 years, 7 or 8 years in, he and his wife are completely mortgage free. And now for the next 40, 50 years, however much money they make, doesn't have to go to their largest line item, which is housing. Great, great book. Really, really inspiring, and a really cool way to just show people how to get their feet wet in some of those creative ways that are not the traditional, like buy a house that I can't afford. Okay. And the other one is this one, John Schaub, Building Wealth One House at a Time. And he just he does a really, really good job of speaking in a down-to-earth way about what it really looks like to invest in real estate. Because what you'll find out, especially if you talk to people who have owned investment property or owned rental properties, it's not as glamorous as it looks on TikTok. Okay, you might go through all this work for the low, low price of $33 a month in cash flow from your nice cash flowing rental. And it looks so cool because you're showing everybody on Instagram that you're investing in real estate. But $33 a month, let's be honest, is that changing anybody's life in here? $33 a month?
Netflix and maybe.
Correct. Yeah, my entertainment value just went up. Yeah, $33 a month is not changing anybody's life. He does a really, really good job of talking through the practicalities of some of these things with when it comes to rentals, when it comes to flips, when it comes to all those things, and making sure that if you don't have a purpose for this thing, real estate can cause you a lot of pain, and you're going to run into a people factor that you don't run into when it comes to the stock market and bonds and stuff like that. And if you have no desire to indulge in that people factor, it's just important that you know that. So you just move straight to stocks and mutual funds and those kinds of vehicles that don't have the people factor that real estate does. Okay. But the beauty of real estate is it has significantly higher potential rates of return over these other things. Especially if you do a burn, you have no money in the deal, and then you just make all this money over time. It's kind of nice. That's Robert Kiyosaki's concept of infinite return. The only way you get infinite returns is if you have no money in the deal. So kind of a cool deal. Okay, I'm gonna give you this for just a couple of. If you want to just jot this down in your notes, there's a couple of podcasts that I would just love for you to know about. Whether you listen to them or not is completely up to you. I totally don't mind if you don't listen to them at all. A lot of people love Bigger Pockets. It's one of the more popular podcasts out there. Okay, so Bigger Pockets does exist. It is not my favorite anymore. The guy who started it is no longer running it. So a lot of their things are not for the average investor. So the one that I want to recommend you listen to is Coach Carson, Real Estate with Coach Carson. And again, if you just Google that in Spotify or podcast app, it'll come right up. It's the same guy who wrote that book. And the other one that I want to point you to, it's called One Rental at a Time. And the guy's name is Michael Zuber. Michael Zuber. He's kind of a quirky guy, but he has a really, really good way of speaking to these things in a down-to-earth way that relates to most real estate investors. And he lays out a really, really cool way to simply get to four residential rentals, because at the point of 4 residential rentals, for a lot of people, that could change your life at the point when those things get paid off. So consider the fact that if you had 4 residential rentals in most markets, you'd be making somewhere between $7,000 and $10,000 every single month with no work put in. And that's a world that, like, for a lot of people, especially into the years where you decide you don't want to work quite as hard, would create a nice, very, very nice, sustainable lifestyle for you forever. And he makes 4 really, really tangible and easy for you to get to. So Michael Zuber, I highly recommend you check out that podcast just to get this rental or get the investment mindset into your mind. All right. Ladies and gentlemen, as we wrap up, I want to just remind you, we got a few master classes coming up. The next one's going to be financials, agent financials. We're going to be talking about taxes. We're going to be talking about planning your money. We're going to be talking a little bit about some of the systems that we highly, highly, highly recommend to just keep yourself organized when it comes to this stuff. And it's going to be a good chance for you to ask questions. We couldn't get the accountant last year, but he told me it's on his schedule for this year. So we're going to try to make sure that we have an accountant in here so you can ask all the random one-off questions that we all tend to have in the world of making sure your taxes are proper and keeping the the IRS off your back. Okay. Listing presentations. We're going to be doing that one. Open houses that pay. That's a great one that's coming up. And we'll be, again, communicating with you guys on all those things as they come up. So any questions around investments while we're all here, while we're all in the room, while we've got time to ask? Questions, comments, concerns for the greater good? Please, go ahead.
So let's say you have an investor and you find him a property, he pays for it cash, and then you take out a line of credit yourself to do what you have. After, the property is sold and you paid off your line of credit, what would be a good split, like a good moral split between you and the investor for the profits?
That's a great question. How good are you at negotiation?
That type of negotiation, I'm not sure.
Yes. So out of curiosity, what would you want? If you're the one doing all the work,
50-50.
50-50. Great. So I want you to consider, do you have the first page of your packet? It's on the first page of your packet. Okay, first page of your packet, there's a whole bunch of investment vehicles. How many of those investment vehicles require physical labor? None of them, right? How many of them require any effort from you? None of them. So how different from those is this for your investor?
No.
Not that different, probably. So you offering him 50, is this a good deal for him or a pretty rough deal? Just taking a look. That's a pretty good deal. That's a pretty good deal. I'm not gonna lie. I don't gotta do nothing. I just put the money down. I get 50% back.
I
This is
might
pretty great.
want more now.
This is great. Okay.
50% of the
So
profit. Correct.
correct. It could be 50% of the profit or 50% of the. I don't know what it ends up being. But what I would consider is, especially for people who are loaning the money, the way they think about it is in terms of the things that are on your paper. So if I put money into this, that means I can't put it into stocks. So either you need to be safer than stocks, or you need to bring me more money than stocks. So if this is going to be admittedly a little bit riskier than stocks, maybe I'll give you 20% on your money. You might walk into this knowing exactly how much you need to pay him out, and all your profit is based on how well you're able to run this project. So that's how I would think about it, not on percentage of the profit. I would say, how much you're going to give me, I'll give you this much back. Because that's exactly what banks do. They say, you do whatever you want with the money, you make however much you want, we just want our 6%. So you tell this guy, this is what private money, if you saw the private money and hard money, private money is you go to wealthy individuals, you say, hey, how would you like to make 12% on your money, 15% on your money? You loan me the money, I'll go do all the work, and then I'll bring you back 15% on this money. How does that sound? They're like, great. How soon do I get my 15%? Yeah, how soon do I get my 15%? You get it in 90 days. Oh, that's pretty awesome. It's a nice annualized return of like 60%. If you can keep this thing going a couple times a year. So to answer your question, I would do it based on the percentage of how much they get, and I would negotiate that up front, and then all the profit on the back end doesn't matter. You get your percentage. For the record, when we talk about Grant Cardone, that's how he got like wealthy. So he did this for people, and he was like, hey, how would you like to make 20% on your money? Everybody put your money in here. Everybody makes 20%. All right, everybody got their 20. Great. There was $35,000 or $35 million left over. Done. And nobody cares because they're like, well, I got what he promised me, right? And nobody's even thinking about it because as long as everybody's getting what they're promised, there's no problem. So I would think about it like that. Great question. For those of you guys out there, Jay Bickford is offering coaching to work through budgets and estimates, and he's only charging a small manageable fee. All right. And guys, before you get out of here, before you pack all the way up, on the very back page of your packet, there's a QR code. And I would just ask you to take a second, just fill out this survey for us. Because we just want to make sure that these classes continue to enrich you or continue to give you valuable information. So we just want to know, are there more things that you guys want to learn? Is there anything else? Are these things helpful for you at all? Do we need to stop doing them because they're just wasting your time? Like, whatever it is, just let us know. It's totally fine. It's totally anonymous survey. We would just love to know from you so that we can continue to serve you guys at a high level. All right. If you need anything from us, we'll be around the rest of the day, and you can always reach out to us anytime you need. You don't have permission to reach out to me.